Donald Trump's Sunday has been ruined as every media outlet is spending Sunday morning calling out his lies. Now, as you know, Donald Trump has been trying to gaslight the country into believing that prices are falling despite what we're all seeing. Well, on the Sunday morning shows, every media company, including Fox and Newsmax, has been calling out his BS. Worse than that for Trump, his administration officials have gone on to conduct interviews, and they're all struggling and stammering, trying to respond to why Trump is lying about the rising prices. To make matters even worse for Trump, Saturday Night Live got in on this, and this is what Trump would have heard.
And people are saying, but sir, how will I afford my Thanksgiving turkey for my family? Well, good news is your family's not coming because all the planes are gone. We call that problem-solving problem.
Problem-solving problem. That is absolutely hilarious, by the way. This is Donald Trump's worst nightmare. The entire country is now getting on board and calling out his BS. This was bound to happen, and it's about time.
Democrat senators are getting ready to sell out and tell 12 million Americans to screw off. Now, according to the Axios and The Hill, there are 10 Democrat senators, including Shaheen from New Hampshire, Hassan from New Hampshire, Rosen from Nevada, Baldwin from Wisconsin, Kelly from Arizona, Ossoff from Georgia, Peters from Michigan, and Durbin from Illinois that are going to vote for the Republican funding bill after 40 days of the government shutdown. And it's infuriating because all of these senators have been on the side of we're not going to cave. And now because the airlines and corporations are complaining that they're losing money, these 10 senators are going to cave. And Ossoff in particular, one of my senators, is up for re-election in 2026. And it's considered to be a seat that the Republicans can flip, which is likely why he's voting for this, is to keep from it flipping. But now he's going to run the risk of being primaried in Georgia with a weaker candidate. And people are going to remember this because 12 million Americans are going to be without health care. And they're doing this on the promise of John Thune, who has lied to them a dozen times already this year that he'll bring a health care bill to the Senate floor to be voted on, but he can't promise the outcome of that. And Mike Johnson said he would already block any vote on a health care bill in the House of Representatives, which means 12 million people are going to lose Affordable Care Act subsidies and access to semi-affordable health care in the United States. Why, after 40 days, cave for any other reason than getting what you wanted? Democrats aren't going to get what they wanted. These 10 are caving for the sake of caving and believing a Republican promise that will once again be broken.
In a very questionable Truth Social rant this morning, Donald Trump promised to give every single American $2,000 because of all the revenue we're getting from his tariffs. That sounds really good, doesn't it? But as usual, once you break down this plan, it falls apart. Take a look. He says people that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation, right, and a record stock market price. 401ks are the highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying our enormous debt, $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place, a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including the high-income people, will be paid to everyone. He's just saying a bunch of buzzwords here, doing anything he possibly can to gain people's support because he knows he's losing it. Richest country, factories everywhere, $37 trillion in debt, gone, $2,000 for everyone. It's chaotic, it's unverified, and it's once again Trump making sweeping promises with absolutely no details. He says the economy is booming, yet he's proposing a massive cash payout. That alone tells you something's not right. If the economy was doing so well, he wouldn't be having to hand out emergency checks. Everyone should know by now that tariffs are taxes. They're not paid by foreign governments, they're paid by us, the American consumers. Economists have been saying this for years, even Trump's own former advisors. Prices go up when tariffs go up. So when Trump calls people fools for opposing tariffs, what he's really saying is you're fools for not wanting to pay more taxes.
So new information coming in today on this Sunday. President Trump put out a post on his social media saying that he would like to give every American $2,000. That is a dividend from the money that's coming in from the tariffs. Now, if you don't know what a dividend is basically like profit sharing. Now, he also said in this post on his social media platform that he plans on doing this, but he does not plan on giving it out to high earners or people who are wealthy. He did not say exactly what this means. He just floated it out there on his social media. Can he do this? Does he have the power to do it? Will it take Congress? And then will it actually hurt when it comes to inflation? Because putting extra money out into the system has proven in the past not to be a good idea. So let me know what you're thinking about this. Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you're following me right here. This news just coming out just a short time ago, everybody. It is definitely really interesting.
Okay, here's the latest Snap update. So we know that all day on Friday, Trump was doing his very best to file as many emergency filings as possible with the courts in order to either get a stay and be able to have more time and delay the process for people getting their SNAP benefits, or for the courts to side with him overall. We know that the appellate court didn't actually reply to him by the end of the day on Friday, which led him towards the end of the day to file an emergency filing with the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court issued him a 48-hour stay so that the appellate courts have time to respond and hear his case on that level. And with that stay comes a pause on issuing out any SNAP benefits until the appellate court has heard the case. And some of us were speculating, was he going to actually, pay out any of the partial payments that he committed to, or, pay out anything at all, or at least allow the states to do that with their emergency funds and pay the states back. And on Saturday, Trump administration demanded that the states return the SNAP benefits that some had already distributed. And I know people are going back and forth with the reason why the Supreme Court made this decision and so forth, but at the end of the day, it is impacting people from being able to get food, and it's throwing things into further chaos. And then the USDA had told states, I believe on Friday or Thursday, that they could begin distributing the full benefits based on the lower court's decision on Thursday. And then they went ahead and said on Saturday that they have to stop distributing it and immediately take steps to undo anything that would be issuing out the full benefits. So if many of you thought with the states that this week you're going to get full benefits from the emergency funds that states have, that may be a little bit more complicated now. So for those in my comment section that kept saying that Trump is required to send out these partial payments and so forth after the judge's stay order, not looking like he not only doesn't have to, but he's asking for the states that have already distributed funds to get it back. And the 48 hours should be up pretty soon. So hopefully on Monday, we'll hear from the Court of Appeals for the First Circuit so that we can figure out how they resolve the Trump's administration's request for a long-term block. So he's still going for a long-term block. And Attorney General Pam Bondi said, the Supreme Court just granted our administrative stay in this case. Our attorneys will not stop fighting day and night to defend and advance President Trump's agenda. And just to make sure we're clear when it goes back to the First Circuit of the Court of Appeals, Trump administration is still arguing that they cannot fund the program for November because of the shutdown, even though a district judge has already said that that's exactly what the funds in the program are used for in the contingency funds. So Trump is still trying to block that order then so that he doesn't have to fund SNAP at all. And not only does he not want to fund SNAP, but he certainly doesn't want the states to fund SNAP at all either, not even in their own funds or emergency funds that they have. Hopefully we'll hear more on Monday. But remember, let's not fight among each other over the logistics of the state. We need to remember that this is colonial violence, and the state is collectively not allowing for people to eat. They all have responsibility, and we don't need to fight among each other. We need to collectively fight together against the state.
Good. Maybe you guys will listen to us next time. Maybe you guys will actually start listening when we tell you this has been Trump's pattern over and over again for his entire life. So the fact that he is not paying his construction workers who are doing work on the White House is of absolutely no surprise to me or anyone else who has been paying attention at all for the last, 80 years of Trump's life. And honestly, since you are demolishing a historical building without the approval of the country, good. I'm sort of glad that this is happening to them. I understand that this country has brainwashed all of us into believing that we are individuals and that we have every right to just do whatever we want to get money. Even if it harms other people, just do it because that's just how the world is. But as long as we continue on that path, this is going to be what you are going to see. You are going to see the most wealthy and powerful people trampling all over every single last one of us. Because what are you going to do to President Trump? How are you going to make President Trump pay you? Good luck. That man has used and wielded the legal system as a weapon for his entire life. By the time you try to sue him, he'll be dead. I'm sure his estate has some sort of laws on it where you can't get anything. So I hope you enjoyed harming a historical building for free because you're not getting paid.
This Sunday's question is, why is Trump sabotaging the American economy? Let's be clear, it's not a question of if, it is a question of why. Because the American economy is collapsing under Trump's rule. So here are some variables to consider before you answer. So first, every major policy he's introduced hurts the working and middle class while strengthening the wealthiest investors. Tariffs that raise consumer prices, tax cuts that balloon the federal deficit, regulatory chaos that drives small businesses out of the market. Each of these moves weakens the economy and concentrates power at the top. Secondly, look at who profits when the economy fails. When farmers default, agribusiness expands. When homeowners lose property, investment funds buy it. When wages fall, corporations gain leverage. Economic failure isn't random. It transfers ownership from public to private capital. Thirdly, we can examine historical parallels. Authoritarian leaders use crisis to consolidate control. They create instability and then present themselves as the only solution. The economy becomes a political weapon. Fourth, watch the global pattern. When America weakens economically, America's enemies are stronger. A failed U.S. economy makes it possible for Russia to expand. So the question isn't whether the American economy is failing. That's measurable, and it is. The question is why. Why is Trump doing it? Let us know what you think in the comments and explore more on my Substack at culturalperspective.com.
Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Zohran Mamdani didn't win because he was offering free childcare or city-run grocery stores or free buses. Those are all great things, but they have all been said before. Mamdani won because he's got balls, and because he's Zohran Mamdani, and he's got the balls to be different. And if you look back at Mamdani's life and who he is, he's had the balls to be different and to challenge power for a long time, for his entire life. And generally speaking, the problem with 99% of politicians these days is that while they talk about the working class, they are advised by the billionaire class. Kevin O'Leary, who is worth $400 million, is pissed off because Zohran Mamdani won't take a meeting with him. And you know what? Good. Maybe it's time that the people who have $6 in their account on Tuesday and they've got to make it last till Friday, maybe it's time that they start advising politicians on what would actually work for them, what would help them. We are going to see people across the political spectrum try and replicate Mamdani's campaign, and while it is great to be inspired, it is not going to work if you are only doing it to get into power. Listen to that again. It will not work if you are only doing it to get into power. You must be doing it to help people. Most people in Mamdani's shoes would have won the election and not said a word about Donald Trump after. Because typically, we only see politicians point fingers at each other and call each other out when it is politically convenient for them. Mamdani is different because people can feel that he is genuine. He actually hates Donald Trump, and he hates the people that are like Donald Trump. He actually cares about working class people, and if you look at Mamdani's history, it will actually show you that. What I'm trying to say is, you cannot just mimic the campaign of Zohran Mamdani and get the support that he got. You actually need to hold the same values and work ethic that he does, and that is not easy to find. It is easy to talk about, but it is not easy to find.
So I want to talk about Donald Trump's post on Truth Social, okay? Which might sound like a populist miracle, okay? But it's actually one of the most reckless healthcare ideas we've ever heard, okay? He's calling on Senate Republicans to take the hundreds of billions of dollars that currently go to insurance companies under Obamacare and send them directly to the people. He says it'll let Americans buy their own better healthcare and even have money left over. Now, on paper, that sounds empowering, right? Money directly to the people. No middleman, more choice. It sounds almost socialist if you strip away the rhetoric. But here's the catch. There's no plan for what happens next. Because you can't just eliminate a healthcare system without replacing it with something. That's like setting a hospital on fire and calling it a liberation, okay? That's not a solution, but let us unpack this. The manipulation of choice, that's what it is, okay? The word choice is the psychological bait here. It's designed to sound empowering, like you'll finally have control over your healthcare. But in reality, choice without affordability is a trap. You'll get to choose between plans that don't cover enough, hospitals that won't take them, or skipping care entirely, okay? That's not freedom. That's abandonment disguised as empowerment. The Affordable Care Act, for all its flaws, sets minimum coverage standards. It prevents insurance companies from dropping you for pre-existing conditions, limits out-of-pocket costs, and guarantees essential care like maternity, prescriptions, and hospitalizations. Trump's plan would erase all of that, okay? He's selling the illusion of a free market when in reality it's a predatory market, one where the people with the least bargaining power are the ones forced to negotiate for their own survival. Who is the real beneficiaries of this? Trump claims he's taking money from money-sucking insurance companies. But look closer. Where do you think people will buy healthcare once those subsidies are redirected? From the exact same corporations. Only now those companies will operate with no regulation and no oversight. It's like promising to drain the swamp, then handing the alligators your credit card. That's what it is. Now, let's talk about the historical pattern. We've actually seen this before. When he promised Dodge checks, that was the illusion of economic relief through meme populism. When he promised tariff rebates, that was supposed to be a return of wealth to the forgotten Americans. Both were emotionally satisfying promises designed to bypass rational analysis, the classic populist playbook. And now he is applying it to healthcare. Tell people they'll get a check, say it's their money, and call it freedom. But here's the brutal reality. Even if every American got $5,000 tomorrow, it wouldn't buy more than a few months of coverage. If that. The cost of care is not the individual's fault. It's the structure's fault. And Trump's plan doesn't fix the structure. It detonates it, okay? Now let's talk about the psychology behind the pitch. This taps into a deep emotional fatigue in the American psyche. The exhaustion of feeling like you're working harder and getting less. Populists know that when people are tired and broke, hope and anger start to sound the same. That's why he uses emotionally charged language. Money sucking. Bad Obamacare. Give it to the people. It's designed to bypass logic and trigger identity. You stop asking how it will work because it feels like it's justice, okay? But this is the same psychology used in every bait and switch movement. Promise salvation from corruption, then quietly deregulate everything behind the curtain. What are some real world consequences? Let's talk about that. So what happens if this actually passes? You'll see skyrocketing premiums for anyone with health conditions, any health conditions. A wave of junk insurance plans that don't cover hospitalization or prescriptions or anything at all. Medical bankruptcies spiking again, just like before the Affordable Care Act. And most devastatingly, millions will lose coverage entirely, especially working families, seniors, and anyone who depends on medication to stay alive. That's not a glitch. That's the plan. That is the plan, okay? Now, there's also the filibuster part in that whole message he left on Truth Social. It's buried in his post, the most authoritarian line of all. We must terminate the filibuster. That is not about healthcare. That is about power. It means he wants the ability to push major systemic changes through Congress without any opposition at all. So the healthcare post isn't just a healthcare post. It's a trial balloon, a test to see how far he can go in dismantling the current system under the guise of, well, populism. Now, what's the bottom line? America doesn't need deregulation disguised as empowerment. You know what we need? We need universal healthcare. A system where access to a doctor isn't treated like a luxury or a reward for having the right employer. Eliminating health insurance without any other solution is not a reform. It's cruelty dressed as freedom. If Trump truly cares about people, he'd be fighting for the thing every other developed country already has. A healthcare system that works because it serves the people, not the market. Until that happens, we'll keep hearing these promises of choice and freedom from the same people who profit from our sickness. And once again, chaos isn't the side effect. It is the point of this administration. Now, if you like this video, please subscribe, please share, please comment. And if you feel so inclined, please go to my Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal or Venmo. Thank you.